Hi, and welcome to this short video on Windows 10 sleep issues. If you've had problems with Windows where it wakes when you don't want it to, or won't go to sleep, or doesn't stay asleep, then this video might hold some answers for you. What I'm going to cover in this tutorial are a basic introduction, the basic setup, which I'm sure you've seen if you've been over the web looking for tutorials on Windows Sleep or articles on Windows Sleep. Third, I'll cover why my PC had issues and some more in-depth information that might be able to help you if you're having difficulty with getting your machine to behave in a way you want. And also if your PC won't wake when you want it to. Okay, for the introduction, why do I want my PC to sleep? Well, there are a couple of reasons you could think of why you might want your PC to sleep. The first for me is that it's a lot faster to start up. It takes 15 seconds for my PC to start up as opposed to about a minute if it's from cold. That's going to vary with everybody's machines, of course. And also because I don't use my machine all day, every day, it saves a fair amount of money in power. So once you've made the decision that you want your PC to be in a sleep state, then the question is, do you want it to wake up? So some of the reasons you might want your PC to wake up is to do Windows updates, which is an automated process built into Windows 10. You might want it to do backups like I do in the middle of the night so it doesn't impact what you're doing. And you might want it to be ready for the day. So you might start work at 9 o'clock. You might want your PC to start up at 8:45, log into Outlook and download all your emails so you're ready to go the second you walk in the door. Okay, so for those of you who've been all over the web looking for a basic setup tutorial, this was covered 1,000 times in 1,000 articles, I guess, but I'm going to cover it here just in case that is what you're looking for. Okay, so this is my laptop. So on my laptop, it goes to sleep when it's supposed to, it wakes when it's supposed to, and it never gives me any grief. And so we'll have a look here at the basic setup. Now, we'll go to Settings, of course, and System, and Power and Sleep. Now, because it's a laptop, it has a section for battery and for AC. So for the screen, battery power, it turns off after 10 minutes and 30 minutes if it's on AC. And for the system sleeping, it sleeps after 2 hours on battery, but never on AC. We go to additional power settings here, or you can get to that through the power plan on your control panel. We'll have a look at settings, and again here it's displaying it a bit differently, but it's a bit cleaner. On battery, 10 minutes and 2 hours, plugged in 30 minutes and never. Changed advanced power settings, and now we'll have a look a bit closer at what's going on here. So there's a couple of things. Sleep's the main section, and here again these times will match. Of course on battery that's 2 hours and never if plugged in. And wake timers. Now these are the ones that cause your system to wake all the time. Now on battery it's disabled, it can't wake up at all on its own, and when it's plugged in it's got important wake timers. Now you can have that disabled, you can have important wake timers, or you can have enabled. Important wake timers is sort of the middle ground, but that's for important things like Windows Update. It's going to wake up anyway. And down the bottom, as we'll see in the logs in a second, about that. So media. So there's an option here when sharing media or video playback. You can have it not power off, so it prevents idling to sleep. Okay, so we've looked at the laptop config. Now let's have a look at one of my bigger machines. So we'll go to Setup. Settings rather, System, and Power and Sleep. Now you see there's only one section here because it doesn't have a battery, and as a simple basic setup I have 20-minute timeout for the screen and 1 hour for the PC. We'll go to additional power settings, and we'll have a look at, I'm on the balance plan, so we'll change the plan settings. Again it's 20 minutes and 1 hour. I'm going to have to click here, change the settings that are currently unavailable if I want to be able to change anything. So we'll have a look here. Hard disks turn off after 0, which means I don't want them turning off at all. Sleep after 60 minutes. Allow hybrid sleep on, so that allows it to do a mixture of memory and hard disk hibernation. I never really allow hibernation. It's just a personal preference. And allow wake timers here. I've got it enabled, but as I said before, you have disabled, enabled, and important wake timers. And if the answer to the first part of this setup was that yes, you want to have sleep enabled, but you don't want it to wake for backups, you don't want it to wake for updates, then you just disable this and the machine is not going to wake up. Okay, but bear in mind the consequences of that, which are of course that it won't keep up to date on updates. This is selective support setting for that, and of course the multimedia settings down here as well, which means that if you're sharing audio or video from the PC, it's not going to shut down in the middle of that to spoil that experience. Okay, so now we've seen the video on basic setup. Let's say that's not doing it for you. Your PC is going to sleep, but it's waking up in 10 minutes or an hour. I had an incident where it was waking up on the hour, every hour, for 30 minutes and then going back to sleep. And then it would wake up an hour later. So it would do that all night long. I've also seen it doing it every minute. So that can be really annoying because that's not particularly good for spinning disks. So what could be causing these issues? Hardware or software? With hardware, something could be broken or in a state that needs attention, right? It may be identified in the following software section, how to find hardware problems. Okay, so under software, we've already covered the setup. Is your setup right? Could it be a device driver or a device itself that could be faulty? Or in a hung state for that matter. But basically, it's something that needs your attention. If you're seeing your machine is correctly set up to sleep and wake at appropriate times, but you're having it wake up every minute or every half hour, it's trying to tell you something's wrong and it wants to do something. So some of these issues that it might want attention for are maybe you've got mirrored drives and the mirroring has stopped and you need to resync your drives. Or you've had a drive problem of some kind, you've got a drive throwing errors. An early indication that that drive's going to die. It's trying to draw your attention to that. Maybe you've done a Microsoft update that requires the system having a power on-off cycle. That's another common one that it will try to stay awake to bring your attention to that. I even had one where I had something stuck in the print queue. That was waking every hour to remind me that there was something in the print queue. And sometimes you've turned options off, like keyboards or network cards that can wake the system, and they could have turned themselves back on. I, for one, have a USB port on my motherboard that turns the option for wake on POL for this card. It turns it back on if you do a full reboot. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at some of the tools that I made to assist with bug shooting this. What's on the screen here is the batch file I created that I keep in the root directory of the C drive, the text of which is in the comments for this video. Now to create this file, we do the following. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is open an editor. So Notepad should be perfect for this, but you have to open Notepad as an administrator. Otherwise you won't be able to save the file. Okay, so now Notepad's finally opened up. We copy and paste the text that's for the batch file within the comments of the video. Okay, and we paste them into this file, and then we do a save as. And I save it in the root directory because that remains in the path. So the things, switch this to all files, just makes it easier, and I called it why I start and make sure it's a prefix of .bat. Now I already have one here, and so we don't actually need to save it. Now, the one thing you might need to change in this are 2 lines here. This powercfg command here that creates the sleep study. I have that in the C drive in C/temp. If you want to put it somewhere else, you might need to change this path. You can, of course, name it anything you want. And then this command here, where you run it in Chrome. I run it in Chrome. You could change that to Internet Explorer if you like. And again, you have to have the path and name of the file match what the output file was up here. So once we've done that, this is basically the file you have. And at the beginning means don't display this command. And so with echo off means that none of these actual commands will be displayed, only their output. The echo command with information after it, this is basically a list of headers to the output that comes out from these next commands. And so it's basically to tell you what the information is. Now, to run that batch file, you really also need to be running it as an administrator, so we'll run that as an administrator. Okay, so here we go. We have a DOS window. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that we can get all the information on the page. And I'll just do a C/Y and a tab, and that'll run the command. Now, this one is on the laptop, so it's a little bit different to the one we'll see on the PC that gives us the troubles. But you can see there's 2 counts of waking from sleep. It's basically a number of things that can cause it to start, but the wake source in this case was USB. And if we trace that through, we'll find out that was actually the mouse. I don't have any trouble with the mouse and keyboard on this laptop because they're hardwired in, whereas on my PC they're Bluetooth, so I've had to disable them. Couple of the commands here, devices that request pending wake. So we have, from the system, we have real tech audio devices, and basically this is because there's video streaming and that's preventing it from going to sleep at this particular stage, or would attempt to wake it up. Nothing on any of the other things down here. Now I will include a supplemental command that shows you all the devices on your system that are capable of bringing it out of a sleep state. And that command helps with if you need to go through and disable everything. And we see that here, this power config minus device query all devices. But when we look at this output here, what we're actually looking at here is a list of devices that can wake the system. So all those devices are actually enabled still. So they have the little tick in the box when you look at them in the device manager. So we can go quickly and have a look at device manager. Here's device manager. So we'll just pick one of the items like the IntelliMouse, and we look at the properties for that device, and we'll see under power management, allow this device to wake the system from sleep. Now basically, as I said, I allow that because it's hardwired in this particular case. Okay, there was nothing else in here. This system section, this is where I found the problem when I had a printout stuck in the print queue. It gave me a warning here, it was stuck. And if we go back to the other section, here we can see there's the commands to stop the spooler, remove any files that are stuck in that queue, restart the spooler. Okay, and lastly here, where it is the section where it puts the sleep study report out. Now if I answer no, it'll just terminate this. If I answer yes, it will start Chrome and put the log file up. Okay, so we have the sleep study here, and we're not really interested in any of the battery information. We can see the behavior of the system here. So it went into standby here. On the 27th at 1:35 a.m. it was asleep for 9 hours, which woke up at 11:11. It was awake for 15 hours, went to sleep at 2 for 8 hours, woke at 10 for 12 hours. So you see the pattern here. There's nothing unusual here. This is the way it's doing, and it's charging while it's doing it. And you can look at the various things here which identify what happened and what woke it up, which was the mouse device. To close this window down, just type exit. Also, there's a Windows plus R to run the disk manager, which we'll cover on the other machine. A sample of my machine, and I've just tried to power it off, and it's not powering off. And so I'm going to go up here and run a command batch file, and I'm going to run it as administrator, and you'll see I have actually got a batch file that I run in the root drive, or in the root directory of C drive, called WhyIwake.bat, and I'll provide this batch file, or the text for the batch file, in the comments below the video. Now, the reason I run this batch file is because it tends to give you a little bit more information than the log files do, but in the bottom part of this window here, you can see you get an option to display the HTML log file, which I'll do in a second. And if you see this, reasons for the system's last wake, I didn't get it to do a wake. This was from a cold boot, so that's 0. So I'll give another example of a cold boot in a minute. List devices that can wake the system from sleep. So we've got displays. We have one here. We'll come back to that in a second. Any away mode, there's none. No executions, no boosting, and no active lock screen. List of devices that can wake the system. There's currently no devices. This might be a mouse or a keyboard, basically something that has input to the system, even a network card that can have the option turned on to wake from system, and I'll go through that later on, so you can see that. And then we have a list of system wake alarms. Now, most of the system wake alarms are for the EaseUS. That's my software that does my backups for me. And then down the bottom here we have another one, which is for Windows and the Universal Orchestrator. So that's what basically does your online your updates for you. And we can answer yes here and get a log. Let's do that. And we'll get the power report, and you can see this is the sort of thing I've been talking about here, where my system's coming up for a minute and going down for 2 minutes, coming up for a minute, down for 2 minutes, and that's not good enough. But currently I press the button on the front to make it sleep, and it won't sleep. And you can see here in process there's one of these to-dos, and I think if we go up here we'll see that there's a backup for the photo library planned, but there is something else going on. So as soon as I can power it down and power it up, or let it sleep, and it will wake itself up, I'm sure of it, and then I'll be able to show you a slightly different example of this file where there's information in the top here about why it started itself. You can see the backup plan there has just completed successfully, so it'll be sending me an email to tell me it's done that, and then it'll probably shut itself down. Okay, well, it's taken 2 hours since I powered it off, but it has come back. So let's have a look at the logs now and see what we've got. Okay, so you'll see it looks a little bit different this time. So now we've got one wake count. It always seems to be one wake count. And we've got this ACPI, and you can search this online, but you're not going to find anything very useful. But I did want to show you that. And I'll show you what's actually causing that at this point in time. We'll have a look at the HTML logs, see if that tells us anything new. And we'll go all the way, oops, So we'll go all the way to the bottom. Nothing there. And it's just gone active now, but there's no reason for that. We do have some information there, wait times, but nothing that's really going to tell you what happened, except it was an application API that caused this to start. Now I'll tell you what it started on. This is trying to get my attention because there's something wrong. It's like I said, it's trying to get my attention. Now I know what it is because I looked into it before where there was an error. But I can do Windows. If I do the Windows key in here with an R and I type in that disk management, go have a look at what my disks are doing, and I will notice that down the bottom my mirrored drives have dropped their mirroring. Now the reason they drop the mirroring doesn't really matter in this instance, but the fact is that they're resyncing, and so even though I sent the system to sleep, they woke up 2 hours, or the system woke up 2 hours later to continue resyncing these drives. And it doesn't really tell you that in any of the reporting you get. So I'm going to let this continue to run overnight, and then tomorrow, once the mirrors have synced, we'll continue on with collecting logs for this demonstration. Okay, so let's have a quick look at how this should look if Windows has started correctly when you've told it to. So obviously fixed feature button, so it started off me pressing the button to wake it up, which is what I wanted. And if we look here, there's no hardware or any issues that are possibly going to start it up. And these services are all set here by the to-do backup to do the various volume backups I have across different days. There's the Experience Orchestrator, that's to do your Windows update, and there's the new Start Menu Experience Host Exec. That replaces the old Shell Experience Host Exec, which controls the start button. So this all looks good, and in fact it has been going since the mirroring completed. It's been a day and a half and it hasn't woken up at all for any reason, and so all looks good now. Okay, so I'll just show you one last thing on this machine. We look at this, and I did clear the logs. So if you go into the environment, and actually, not now, if you go into the environment and you can clear your logs, I'll just show you how to do that. If you go to the event viewer here, Windows, and you can right click on System Logs and clear the logs. If you're having a lot of problems, that's one way to sort of break it down, start again fresh, and then if it does a problem, you get a log there and you'll be able to read it. So I had this abnormal shutdown. I don't know what caused that the other day, but it did result in the mirrors having to be redone. But you can see since then it's behaved itself. After the mirrors finished syncing, which was about 1:20 a.m. there, I put it to sleep, and it slept for 36 hours until I activated it just before. So I'm very happy with how this is performing now. So hopefully it'll continue to behave itself. All right, well, one of my other machines just started up, so let's go and have a look why. Okay, so it's woken up on its own, and we can see it's done that because of the update orchestrator. So this is updating, this is doing a Windows update, and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 5:30 actually, and so it's just off doing that on its own. Okay, so now I left the PC doing its thing, which was at about 6, I think. Then I came back about 6:30, quarter to 7, and the machine was powered off, finished its updates. But I wandered back in about 9:30, and there it was again, powered up, which is not normal, which means it's looking for some attention. And I've just run that command, and we can see that in here now we have these two processes, which are the USO coworker processes as a process. Then one here. And basically my computer's asking at the same time that it's downloaded an update and it needs to install that update. If we have a look behind here, around the updater. So I'll just hit restart now and install that. Okay, and lastly we'll look at the least annoying of these issues, which is that your PC is not waking up on its own. So either the timers are not set or you have wake timers disabled, which was covered in the basic parts of the setup in part 2. So I'm hoping that that's been helpful in your struggle to find a solution for your Windows 10 sleep issues. If you find this helpful, please give it a like. Let me know whether or not it helped you out. And if it didn't and you found something else, please let me know. I'm more than happy to update the video. And any comments you put in the comment section, of course, might help somebody else who's struggling with these issues. Thank you for your time.